Hello everyone, this is Satya Prakash. Welcome to my channel. This is part 4 of ASP.NET MVC. So in this video, I'll discuss how to debug the IIS hosted ASP.NET MVC application in Visual Studio using worker process or w3wp.exe. So before going through this video, please visit my part 3 of MVC, which is the difference between ASP.NET Web Form and MVC. URL mapping, and this video is related with the part 2, that is I already have shown you how to run ASP.NET MVC application using IIS without Visual Studio, or how to host MVC application in IIS. So this is the related with this video, how to debug the IIS hosted MVC application in Visual Studio using worker process. So guys, in this video, I'll discuss how to add and map application pool to hosted MVC application. So what is IIS and w3wp.exe worker process, and how to debug IIS hosted MVC application in Visual Studio, and what are the keywords shortcuts to debug for Visual Studio. Okay. So first of all, I'll tell you in my last video I already have shown you how to host the application in IIS. So this is the application MVC App. This is the MVC application. All right. So after then this step 1 is for this video is I want to create the application pool here. So what I'll do here is you can see here one application pool, right, in your under your desktop name, right? So just right click on it and add application pool. So if you can see this kind of interface, right? And what I'll do here is I'll tell you here you can see MVC App application, right, which is hosted in IIS. So same application pool I want to add here as MVC App, and the selection should be .NET CLR version, right? So I want to select here as .NET CLR version 4.0, and managed pipeline mode is integrated, and click OK and start application pool immediately. We need to check the box. I already have created, so no need to create here again. So I'll show you what is the configuration we have made here. So I'll right click on it on the MVC app and basic settings. Right here you can see, right, whatever options I have shown you, the same already have created earlier, right? So also I need to check here the advanced settings. In advanced settings, you guys remember one thing is identity. You need to select here as network service, right? Here by default it is local service, local system, but you need to select here network service. And many companies in their real-time project, they need to select here as network services. All right, so what I'll do here is this is the step how to add the application pool in our IIS for that specific MVC application which is hosted. And I'll tell you one more step here is how to map the application pool to our MVC application, right? So what I'll do here is just expand this one MVC app, go to basic settings. You'll get one interface, right? By default alias is showing has the same name of your MVC application name, and here application pool, if you select here, you'll get the all available application pool, right? So for example, default app pool MVC app, so it is showing here MVC app, whatever you have created, so select this one. All right, and this one is mapped to your physical path of your project, that is MVC app, and click OK, right? I already have mapped to the application pool to my MVC app, so no need to create here again or mapping again. So this is the step how to map application pool to your MVC application. All right, so next one is so I already have run my MVC application using Chrome. So here you can see, guys, this is the output of my MVC application, right? Member index. Here you can see the output, that is the some member details and all the member related records you can see here, right? These are 9 to 10 records is here. So this member is the controller and index is the controller action method. So I'll go to my Visual Studio, I'll open my MVC project. So here I need to find out the controller name, that is MVC controller, and this is the index action method. So here I want to debug my MVC application, right? So okay, so I'll tell you how to debug the MVC application here. So guys, first of all I'll tell you there is most important few debug shortcut keys for Visual Studio to debug the application. Number one is that is F9, which is toggle breakpoint, right? So if you'll just click this here and click on from your keyboard, that is F9, right? So here you can see on this particular line you can see one red mark, a red rounded mark, that is nothing but the breakpoint, right? It can showing that location is member controller.cs, line number 13, and character is 9, right, for index action method. And the same way I can put here another breakpoint. So just click here F9, right? So what is F9? This shortcut marks or removes a backing point in the code which is represented by a red dot in the form of that line of code. So this helps in checking whether this line of code is executing properly or there are any errors, right? So this is nothing but about the F9, the details on it, the keyboard shortcut for debugging. So next one is how to debug. This is a very important point. So for debugging I go to my IIS, right? Collapse this one, go and click here desktop, right? This is nothing my desktop name. So in your system, as per the desktop name, it will show here. So just click on your desktop name here, and you can see on your right hand side of dashboard of desktop home, you can see one option under IIS, that is worker process, right? So worker process, I will select this one. You can see here that is available application pool here, right? So here guys, I want to refresh this one to reflect all these things properly, and here I need to refresh, right? Okay, I'll go here again and select your worker process. So now you can see guys, MVC app, right? Whatever application pool you have created here is MVC app, and you also see one more application pool, that is default application pool here. This is the default for IIS, but as per your customization of application pool, you can see your own created application pool, that is MVC app, right? And you need to remember there is process ID is 4848, right? And for that I'll take this process ID and I need to track using my Visual Studio. So I have opened my Visual Studio and click here debug, right, and attach to process, or there is a shortcut that is Control Alt P, right? Here I need to select attach to process. So here guys, I'll tell you one more thing is to select that particular application pool with process ID, there is a exe file is there. So I just type here w3wp. It is nothing but the worker process. So when you type your worker process, that is w3wp, so all the available process or applications pool of that particular ID, it will be reflected here. If in your IIS there is so many application pool, then in that worker process you'll get more than one worker process with their ID. So as of now in my application pool it shows only one application pool, that is MVC App with 4848 process ID, so that in my worker process it shows only one worker process, that is name is w3wp.exe and the ID is 4848, and the identity whatever I have selected, it is showing under username, that is network service. And after it is showing, I'll click here attach, right here. So once you attach to process, right, here I'll go to my page. I need to refresh here, and as soon as I refresh my URL of MVC application, you can see it will go to my Visual Studio automatically, and you can see one yellow arrow mark it's showing under the red dot, right? That means the debug process has been started. So next one is what I'll do here. So to debug, there is one shortcut is there, is F10, right? That means step over. So this shortcut is to step over a breakpoint. It simply won't run the next breakpoint or steps out of the debug session. So I'll click here F10, right, and it will go to the next line. You can see one this yellow arrow mark comes under this line to this line, right? So this is highlighted with yellow background mark, and after then I'll click here again the F10, and it will come to our next line, right? If you want to select here some information about the employee business layer, right, you can see here, you can click here. You want to know about business layer, you can see there is count of 9. That means all the employee details it shows. That is on index 0, it shows the mark is employee name with the details, gender, ID, city, date of birth, right? And same way, if you check here the index of 8, you can see Tommy Hitler, and it's all details, city, date of birth, gender, and ID. Okay, now I'll again click on F10, and it will go to our next line of code, that is return view, right? And you can see if you'll click here return view, inside I have passes the employee object, right, and list of employee object whatever we have created. And if you'll click here, you can see on the pop-up that is the 9 records of employee showing, right? So index 0 it shows all the details of employee, and index 8 it shows the employee ID of 8 with all details. So this is about the that is F10, and if you click here F10, then it will go to the it's all related HTML CSS file, right? Because our member controller have indexed controller action method, so that by default it will go to our view start CSS, and after then if you click here F10, then it will go to the index.html CSS file, and it will go to one by one on that CSS file, guys. So again it will go to CSS file, and it will check all the model objects, right? Name, gender, city, you can see here, right? And click here again, city and date of birth. Then it will go to the for each loop, right? So in for each loop it will loop all the records, so 9 times it will check your records, right? And it will go to item and go to the item name. So if you check here under item, you can see the first index 0 record, right? So London mark it's showing here, right? And it will go to all, and as well as it will show all the properties, right? It will show all the property details. So for index 0 it shows the name of the employee's name mark, and if you'll click here, so it shows the gender is male, and city is London, and date of birth is that is 5th of 1 1979. So in this way it will loop all your records, and you can check the data of your employee during debug your application. So I need to click here continue, and once you continue, that means the debug process is stopped here and you can get your result, right, whatever is showing here. Okay, so this is all about F10 keyboard shortcut, and next one is I'll tell you about the a keyword that is F11. So once you click on F11, then it will go to here, right, and what I'll do here, I'll check here F11 and shift plus F11. So F11 is nothing but for step into, and shift plus F11 is for step out. So this shortcut is to step into the breakpoint or step out of it. So it starts the execution or ends the execution of the current breakpoint. So I'll type the F11 here from the keyboard, and once I'll click here F11, then you can see that breakpoint moves to from 1 to in a line number, that is the next line, right, from here to here. And if you'll click here again the F11, in it will go to the next line, that is the employee business layer. And if you'll click here again, then it will go to it will step into that particular employee a public employee object, enumerable of employees, and it will inside it I have configured all the connection strings and passed the stored procedure details. Why the debugger comes to this point? Because in this line I have created one list of object, and inside employee business layer, and I have access the employees, right? So that's what the debugger is. This is the breakpoint. It will go to this particular employees, enumerable of employees, so that the breakpoint comes to this file, that is employee business layer.cs with enumerable of employees. And I don't want to, if I'll check the details of that employees. So if I'll click here F11, it will go to next line, and again it will go to next line, and here I can see it is showing nothing is count 0. And here if I'll select here F11, then it will check all the steps one by one, right? So I don't want to use my breakpoint to check the remaining of code. So here I want to step out. So what I'll do is I'll type here shift plus F11 from my keyboard. So I click here shift plus F11 from my keyboard, so that breakpoint comes to its original position, that is from index action method, right? Because the breakpoint has been moved from here to in this file of code, right, employee business layer. So when I click here shift plus F11, then from that current line to it will move to this original position of a line of code, that is the index action method. So this is about step into and step out using F11, and for step out is shift plus F11. So here is again I'll type here F11 here, so it will go to next line of code. I want to check here the details, so it shows the same as 9 employee of records, and you can see index 0 it's showing the details of employees, and the index ID of 8 is show the ID whose ID is employee ID is 8 with all details. So here I again click here this one and click on continue. So once I continue, I got the all details, so 9 records I have seen here, right? So in this way we can debug our IIS hosted MVC application in Visual Studio using worker process. So I'll go to my presentation here. So what is application pool? So application pools responsible for isolate one or more applications into their own process. So you have two different websites like website A or website B, and want to deploy on same server. So application pool isolate your website means website A run on one application pool and website B run on another application pool. So that means my application MVC app is running using process ID 4848. If I'll create one PHP application, it should have a different process ID. So that it's written here, right? So, and next one is what is IIS and what is worker process, that is w3wp.exe. So IIS stands for Internet Information Services. It is known as Internet Information Server. Is a Windows service that allows you to host or store, manage and test websites or web applications on Windows systems. We can host any sites like ASP.NET website, MVC, PHP, Java in IIS. So IIS does all the processing and managing of your websites. We can host multiple applications in IIS also. Worker process is all ASP.NET applications runs under the worker process. So when a client sends a request to the server, the worker process will be responsible for generating the request and response. So that is the main purpose behind the using worker process in IIS. And what are the shortcuts for debugging in Visual Studio? One is F9, that is toggle breakpoint. This shortcut marks or removes a backing point in the code, which is represented by a red dot in the form of that lookup code. This helps in checking whether this line of code is executing properly or there is any error. F10 is for step over. This shortcut is to step over a breakpoint. It simply won't run the next breakpoint or step out of the debug session. F11 is for step into, and shift plus if F11 is for step out. So this shortcut is to step into the breakpoint or step out of it. It starts the execution of or ends the execution of the current breakpoint. So this is my YouTube channel. Subscribe and share it to get the updated knowledge on .NET, .NET Core, C#, SQL Server, Angular, DevOps and Azure. So what we have learned today in this video is how to add and map application pool to hosted MVC application, what is IIS and what is worker process, how to debug IIS hosted MVC application in Visual Studio, and what are the debug keyboard shortcuts for Visual Studio. Okay, that's it for today guys. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.